new, old, however, is you absolutely positively want to take the Microbial Warrior series of courses. Again, as I shared, sometimes they run them concurrent, but even if they're separate, you still want to take these courses, to take Jeff's course first. I can coach you after you've taken his course on some specifics, where to get stuff, order of events, but the foundation is the course. Okay, well, we were contacted by a housing authority, and we work with various charities, government agencies, even Indian tribes. I'm speaking from Washington State. And all of those entities serve at-risk people in our community. And sometimes something goes wrong and there's illicit drug use in the residence, and it needs to be corrected so that it can be used as a living space for the next person. And so I'm on site at such a site, and I'm here on the front end. So typically the process is we would do testing, send results to the lab, and I can expand on that, but here's the short version. We do testing, send our samples to the lab, get the results back. Depending upon the results, we would either do abatement, or if there's no issue, then it's clean. Say that there is an issue, then we do abatement, and then after abatement, we do testing again. Samples go to the laboratory, and decisions are made based upon that as well. Ideally, it's clean, and that's how it would be when we were done.
This is the first step in that process. You're on site and you're conducting the initial tests.
That's right.
Just to see, just to understand what you're dealing with.
Yes. So that is the preferred method. Is we do the initial testing. If it's contaminated, then we do the decontamination process, and then when we're done, then we do testing again. Sometimes another entity will do the testing up front, and then we're contacted and we're shared the results, and then we come in and do the abatement, and then we'll do the post-testing.
And are you working on this alone? Are you partnering with some other service providers?
Well,
is it something that you can do end to end typically?
Yeah. So, well, I'm at this site by myself. I actually did a test earlier in the week at another site, and now I'm at yet a different site doing methamphetamine and fentanyl testing. Now, I'm not wearing protective equipment. I will wear gloves when it comes time to take the samples at the various locations throughout the residence. Okay. But we're not disturbing anything. When we come in to do the actual work, we're fully gowned in proper respiratory protection, eye protection, gloves again, of course.
Now, if you're talking about thinking of someone who is starting a restoration business and may want to add these services to their portfolio of services, let's just look at the testing piece. You had to get certified in order to be able to conduct these tests. Is that right?
Yeah. So every state is different. In Washington State, where I am, and many states like Washington when it comes to this, they do require certification to do methamphetamine cleanup, and they require certification to do testing. So there's two levels of certification. There's what's called the worker level, and then there's the supervisor level. You first take the work, like everybody takes the worker course, and then those who are going to be doing testing and managing workers on site have to have the supervisor course. And we have a badge for that. And, we just carry on. But we We
Yeah.
do have to have certification. Now, some states require no certification. Some states require certification. Some states have acceptable limits on contamination, and some have no limits at all. They don't define it.
How do you find out? How do you find out your state's requirement? I'm in Michigan. Somebody else might be in Florida. Somebody else might be in New York.
Sure.
Where do you go
Well,
to understand?
Here in Washington State, we have the Washington State Department of Health, and I would probably start with that. I just
Okay.
look for the Department of Health and type in methamphetamine, Department of Health certification, and that would be the place to start.
Good. Okay. And your process, I mean, obviously you're certified to conduct these tests, but you're also equipped to do the whole thing. You can do the decontamination, you can do the mitigation, the whole from the beginning to the end. Talk a little bit about that process. That's a process that you work with. I think it's Jeff Jones and the Microbial Warrior and that full approach. Maybe you can describe that a little bit in your relationship with Jeff Jones.
Okay, so Jeff Jones is one of my coaches, one of my mentors. He's the person who developed the fentanyl abatement course. It's the high-risk, high-level decontamination specialist course, which he and his wife, Lori, co-teach. They also have a Microbial Warrior course that they teach as well. Sometimes they teach them both in the same week. Sometimes they're separated. They're the processes we use, and it includes a number of features. First of all, it is very hands-on, very hands-on. We repeatedly do the work. We have safety equipment, PPE, where we are gowned appropriately. We're taught how to do that. We're taught how to don the material, that is, put it on. We're taught how to doff the material, that is, the proper order to remove it, making sure that you're free of any contamination yourself. We do wet chemistry. We do foaming of such chemistry. There's agitation. There's wipe down. There's area fogging as well, too. All of these to disinfect and remove the contaminant. Jeff has a 4-system process. The first one we call contain. So it's contain, control, neutralize, remove. So contain is where you first do a site assessment. Do we have to build any rooms for donning and doffing? Do we have to have special containment set up to separate areas? In the case of where I'm at right now, it's an apartment, so contain is simply coming in and shutting the door. It can be as simple as that. Now, I'm doing testing, but when we're doing the actual abatement, it would follow those 4 steps. So then the second step is control. So we have you don't want to disturb what could be on surfaces, be they horizontal or vertical. So there's proper techniques, there's equipment, there's processes used to initially contain any material that could be on any surface. That's walls, ceilings, tables, contents, countertops, anything that's inside of the structure. We want to control that. So we first make sure that we're contained, and then we control it using proper systems and processes to keep from disturbing what could be inside of the structure. And then we move on to neutralize. So we have some very specific chemistry for this and processes for that as well. All the while, we're in full gowned PPE, proper respiration, eye protection, hand protection, feet protection. So during the neutralize phase, we are inactivating, we're chemically converting the illicit drugs, be they fentanyl, be they methamphetamine. It could be heroin, it could be ecstasy, LSD, anything of that type. We have some very appropriate chemistry for that. When that part of the system is done, when that part of the process is done, and that includes electrostatic equipment, foaming equipment, microfibers, mop heads that can accommodate that, then we move on to the removal stage. So again, it's contain, control, neutralize, and then remove. And in the removal stage, we have yet another chemistry used, and we treat all surfaces again, essentially wiping up. It's almost like a rinse phase, if you will. So we're pulling up everything that had been neutralized and removing that. We have different surfactants and things that are in our neutralizing phase that we use, and we want to remove all of that along with the neutralized bad stuff. And that becomes our 4 phases. And then after that, it's testing again, sending off samples to an approved laboratory. Our laboratory that we use is in Utah, and I live in Washington, and I've actually visited this lab before. I went there last year. I talked to the people there regular. I was on the phone with them earlier today. We have a sample set in their lab now, and I gave them a heads up that I have like another one on the way as well too.
Right. So you've got this system down. Obviously, it's a highly toxic, very, very dangerous situation, depending on the content, the actual context, but it could be quite life-threatening. But you've got this down to a detailed process with Jeff Jones and his approach. Talk a little bit about how you work with Jeff. In other words, like somebody who's starting this business and wants to get into this, because it can be lucrative. But it just needs careful, detailed structures. They can work with Jeff, but then you have a follow-on after that. So you get your training, but then they can work with you and your app, and then ensure that you deliver well. Can you talk a little bit about what you can do for new business owners?
Okay, so the thing that I share with all business owners, new, old, however, is you absolutely positively want to take the Microbial Warrior series of courses. Again, as I shared, sometimes they run them concurrent, but even if they're separate, you still want to take these courses. For me, it was the most useful and practical, hands-on course that I've ever taken in this industry. Now, there's some very good courses being produced, and I'm talking about technical courses where we're actually doing work in the field with equipment. I have taken multiple excellent courses in this industry. Jeff's and Lori's, I would put them on the highest level because they're so well explained. The threat is understood very well. Jeff and Lori are phenomenal trainers. They do this work in the field themselves. And because of the dangerous work, bloodborne pathogens, airborne, illicit drugs and these kind of things, you really want to take his course because safety is discussed, process is discussed, chemistry is discussed, and we actually do the work. I mean, you're breaking a sweat, doing the kind of work that Jeff teaches, and Jeff's gowned up too.
Yeah.
Lori's gowned up. They will do work. They will be coaching us, instructing us, watching us. If we're doing something wrong, then they'll pull us back and they'll talk to the whole class about what's being done. There's just no substitute for actually doing it. And that's what Jeff and Lori teach in their course.
I've talked to a number of people who've been, I was going to say, I've talked to a number of people who've been through that course, and to the one, every single one of them have raved about the content and what they've learned and how they can take what they've learned and apply that into the field.
I would call it the techniques and processes and chemistry and equipment learned in this course doesn't just apply to biohazard. It applies to fire. It applies to cigarette smoke odor. It applies to mold inside of the home. It applies to category 3 losses inside of a home. There's testing equipment that Jeff trains us on as well too. You can actually see the results of what you're doing. It's very thorough, and we know where to get the equipment, where to get the processes. Jeff will often bring in guests as well too that are a part of the industry that supply some of the chemistry and equipment that Jeff uses in his course. And so you walk away with the full package. I mean, you can do a biohazard job the next day in your home. If you have all the equipment, you will be able to do that. You will be able to do. And
now, that's the question I have. Go ahead.
Well, I share some of those key things in my app, but the app is password protected for the biohazard section, because you really need to take Jeff's course first. I can coach you after you've taken his course on some specifics, where to get stuff, order of events, but the foundation is the course. Again, the Microbial Warrior course and the high-risk, high-level decontamination specialist course.
But what does the app have? Obviously, you don't give it to somebody who hasn't been through the course, because that they're not prepared. But once they've gone through the course, what does the app offer someone who's actually conducting a project?
Okay, well, one of the key things is, I will explain again about contain, control, neutralize, remove. But so Jeff and Lori, all they do is biohazard. There's other biohazard companies, and that's all they do. But for a property damage mitigation company, we don't do this every day, day in and day out. If we did, then my app is really not needed. But for the people who do it infrequently, you might forget what it is that you're supposed to be taking with you.
Particularly if you're new to the service, right? Particularly if you haven't done one yet. That would be extremely helpful.
And so the thing that we do is we put everything that should be in what we call for us, it's a red bag, and it already contains biohazard equipment ready to go. So the person who does what I do as a restoration company owner, I've got a couple of these bags ready to go. If there's a biohazard job, then we pull up the app,
just pick it up and go.
Make sure we've got everything we need. We've got the red bag, which is already equipped. Then we get the chemistry. We make sure we have the microfiber cloths. We make sure we have our foamer. We make sure we have our foggers, and we deploy. What you don't want to do is get to a job site and you've forgotten stuff, because maybe it's like 6 weeks between biohazard jobs. You're doing mold, you're doing water, you're doing fire, and then now it's time to do a biohazard job. Well, you're going to forget some stuff. So the app is a field guide. It isn't, this is how you do everything from A to Z. That's in our book, or, well, with the exception of the biohazard, that's in our book, water, fire, mold, cigarette smoke odor, hoarding, ducts. That's all laid out. The biohazard is its own category. It is a serious category. Jeff not only has a national reputation, he has an international reputation.
Yeah.
He just has the goods. He's been doing this since he was a teenager, and he's
Right.
my age group, like in the 60s now. So
Well, and that's one of the things I really appreciate you,
world
Bob, is that your ecosystem has worked. You work with Jeff Jones, David Hart with Ram Air, with equipment and techniques that are really at the top level of their game. That's who you work with, and that's what you bring to anybody who's going to be reading the Mitigation Handbook or working with you or getting training from you. You're getting the best techniques available.
That's right. Yeah. So I work with people that are hands-on in the field, people at Artemis who have world-class chemistry. They also have world-class equipment. David Hart, we had mentioned at ramair.co, his positive air pressure duct cleaning and disinfecting system, which is the only system endorsed by the Microbial Warrior Academy. It is efficient, effective, thorough, and it can be handled by the everyday guy with appropriate training. And then, of course, Jeff, in fact, David sometimes accompanies Jeff when they're doing Microbial Warrior or the high-risk, high-level course, and he'll demonstrate how to use his equipment. He's got endless videos. He's got training. He trained us, he and his crew. Of course, I'm in Seattle. He's in Bend, Oregon. We're reasonably close geographically. The first time we worked with his equipment, we were actually doing a methamphetamine job at a fire loss. And his team came up, showed us how to do everything. They were packing up their equipment to go home. And I said, hold on. You're not taking that equipment with you. I'm keeping it. I'm buying it. We're going to use it. I want to be able to do ducks tomorrow if I have to. And so that's great.
So that's the level of that's who you run with, so to speak. And that's the kind of training and equipment and resources that someone has in the Mitigation Handbook or with the training that they receive with your coaching.
These are guys who actually get the theory, but they're field people as well, too. Jeff and Lori work in the field. David Hart works in the field. Bob Jordan works in the field. Brad Smith over at Artemis and Clay Hernandez have done tons of work in the field. And I don't really take advice from people who don't work in the field. It's
that's right.
It's just theory, right?
From the ivory tower doesn't really help unless you're in the field.
That's right.
Doing it as well, which I think you do both. Actually, you do the training and the coaching, but then you're out, as you see today, you're out there testing and rolling up your sleeves and making a difference.
Yes.
Well, Bob, I appreciate it. I know you have a project to get to, and we'll hear more about that project, I think, and we'll hear more about the Mitigation Handbook and the set of, I think you have a new article coming out shortly.
I do. So I just wrote a paper on cigarette smoke odor removal, and we spoke about that in a past podcast. And I'm just now sending into peer review another paper on fire and smoke restoration. And and we actually make those available through our website. You can contact me directly through the mitigationhandbook.com website. Say, hey, can you send me the cigarette smoke odor procedure? Can you send me the fire procedure? And I will. And there's no cost to that. And those will be chapters in the next edition of the Mitigation Handbook.
That's great. Well, super. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about that, and we'll see you next week. We'll probably talk more about that on the next episode.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.